Good. Good morning, everyone. Okay, the shir is sponsored for Shlema for Ben ציון ben Shieinndel. All right. Just a couple of quick things on yesterday. Just a quick thing on the brachos on nature. So I think it's pretty much accepted that women, children, and avelim all say these brachos. Only an onain is the one who doesn't say these brachos. Okay, then as far as we did touch upon the whole subject of on nature, it seems to be that everyone holds it has to be in a situation where a person gets impressed or inspired, at least on some level. It doesn't have to be a tremendous inspiration, but it has to be where you're at least on some level impressed or inspired, and it's completely subjective. For any kind of a mountain, a river, or a body of water, of course, not man-made. Some say even in Hare Shomron, Hare Yerushalayim, there are many mountains throughout Eretz Yisrael, for example, that are not the Swiss Alps, but still they say if you're personally impressed, then you should say. All right. Now, Chazal gave us numerous examples of what to say Oseh Maaseh Breshit on. So there are two main approaches. One is it's only these that they were gozer on, they made the bracha for, matakin for, and only on these and not any others. However, I believe the more prevailing minhag or halacha or poskim is that these are only examples. It's quoted b'shem from Gershom Kagan b'shem of Kornfeld. For example, if you see, I also saw it in Penine Halacha, that if you're very far away from the mountain range, even if you'd be up close, you would say the bracha. But if you're so far away, you're not impressed from it. So in that state, you would not say the bracha. Just to point out a couple names. I mean, really, it's you follow what the minhag is or the psak of your Rav. But just some say it's not 100% clear. But the Shem Orach Chaim Kanievsky, he was on the more opinion that these are only on these things they are matakin, but not on other things that are not listed. At the same time, they quote the Shevet Alevi or ציון. I heard also from Rav Tzuriel and Rav Pessin that really these are only examples, and you should say it on anything. So some common examples. What about geysers, northern lights, waterfalls? Even if there's nothing special from the river, perhaps it's part of the river. But again, according to many, even on all these phenomena, if you're impressed, then you would. A volcano, as another example, even if it's not a big mountain. So these are examples when one is allowed to say yesh al pi lismach, but there are obviously two approaches. On an eclipse, we know from the Gemara and Sukkah, I think it's Chavtet, but we know it's a Siman Klala. So there, some say the Stipler I saw quoted in the name of, and others say we do not say the brachas of Oseh Maaseh Breshit. The minhag is not to. Yam HaMelech, they also say not to say. Number one, it is a Siman Klala, the way it was created. Also, it was created after Maaseh Breshit. So that's another reason why it's often not said. And I did see also, just to clarify, to point out for the Atlantic Ocean, so I did see also in Piskei Teshuvos, Penine Halacha, that the minhag of Ashkenaz is just like the Mishnah Berurah writes, that they only say Yam HaGadol on the Atlantic Ocean, and on the Mediterranean, I take that back. On the Atlantic, that's where they say Hayam HaGadol, and it's the Mediterranean, they say Oseh Maaseh Breshit, which is the opposite of the Shulchan Aruch and the opposite of the minhag of the Sfardim. Okay. Just as a quick wrap up, so we know that these brachas are great to say, but and there's no chashash of safek brachos lahaka when there's a minhag, and one can follow the psak of his Rav. But these are halachos of reshut, and these are a bracha of reshut. It's optional, And therefore, if one is really in doubt, or one is not really inspired, then it's good to say the bracha v'li shem v'malchut. Okay, Reish Lamed. Aleph. Hamitparel alma she'avar. Person says a bracha on something that already occurred in the past. Right? It's done with. It already happened. Kegon. Shenichnas la'ir. V'shama kol tzevacha ba'ir. V'amar. So a person enters a city and he hears screams coming from the city. V'amar, and he says, Yihi ratzon shelo yehei kol ze betoch beiti. So that he davens that this screaming is not coming from his house. So the damage already happened. Whatever happened already happened, and wherever the scream came, the scream already happened. But he still wants to say tefillah that it's not from his house. So that's an example of something that already occurred, and you can't change the past. You can't change history. It's beyond even asking for a miracle. Okay. O shahaita ishto me'uberet. Or his wife is already pregnant. Achar arba'im yom li'ibura. It's already been 40 days. And the assumption is, up until 40 days, it's not concrete if it's going to be a boy or a girl. It could still change. It could still be decided. But after 40 days, it can't. So after 40 days, if you would say, Yehi ratzon shetoled ishti zachar, I daven to Hashem that my wife is going to give birth to a male. Harei zeh tefilat shav. So both of these examples are tefilat shav. It's a wasteful and vain tefillah. There is no benefit. It's inappropriate. And even and if you want to make a tefillah for something, it's going in for waste. So instead of davening for something useful and helpful, it doesn't do anything. And in fact, it could be even detrimental, not only because then instead of davening for something useful, you're davening for nothing, but also it ki'ilu makes Hashem look bad. Or you might have it might weaken your emunah a little bit, because you're davening for something that it's not going to help, and when it doesn't turn out good for you, you get disappointed. So a tefillah shav is not something you want to do. Ela yitpalo adam al ha'ati lavo. A person could only daven for something in the future. V'yiten hoda'a al she'avar. You could say thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu on the past, for good or for bad. Right? We have dynamis. We have also. Besides just Hatova Meti, where Yehi Ratzon. So one should always praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the past. You can't change it. But you should only daven for the future. Kagon, what's an example? Hanichnas lakrach, you enter a city. So before you enter the city, or as you're entering in Omer, Yehi ratzon milefanecha Hashem Elokeinu shetachniseni lakrach hazel shalom. Before you enter, you say, Hashem, please make the entrance, everything, I should get in okay. Nichnas b'shalom. Once you enter b'shalom, so then, Omer, modeani. Then you say, thank you, Hashem. Lefanecha Hashem Elokeinu shechnastanu lakrach hazel shalom. It should let us enter l'shalom. B'keishlat said Omer, Yehi ratzon milefanecha Hashem Elokeinu shetatzienu mikrach ze l'shalom. Then, when you want to leave, so again, then you can say Yehi ratzon on the future of leaving, that you should leave in peace. Yatza b'shalom, once you leave b'shalom, Omer modeani lefanecha Hashem Elokai shetatzienu mikrach ze l'shalom, ukashem shetatzienu l'shalom ken tolicheni l'shalom. So then, once you leave, then you say Modeh, that you saved me, right? We're in the beginning of Reish Lamed. Ad Baruch Ata Hashem Shomei Tefillah. Until you could finish saying this Modeh, and you finish off by saying Baruch Ata Hashem Shomei Tefillah. V'zohi Tefilat Haderech Shenichtavu Hi V'chol Dinea B'siman Kof Yod. So this is related to what we learned about Tefilat Haderech. Okay. And then, so that's for Tefilat Haderech. Now, let's read Seif Bet, and then we'll bring both together. Just to point out, interesting Gemara, this is, obviously all these are based on the Gemaras. So, when it talks about 40 days, so it's, the Mishnah says, once it's 40 days, you can't ask for it to be changed. So the Gemara asks in Brachos in Daf Samech. So it says, but we see by Leah and Dinah otherwise. The Midrash says after Leah was already pregnant, she felt bad for her sister, so she didn't want to have 7 boys come for her. So when she was already pregnant, she davened to Hashem that it should change. It should change from a boy, but she knew through an avuah as a boy. She davened that it should change from a boy to a girl. And so what happened? So the Gemara asks, how can you do that? We just learned you can't. So the Gemara gives 2 answers. Either it was less than 40 days, and the assumption was it's still possible to change, or to be formed. The Gemara gives another answer. It says, on Maisa Nisim, we don't talk about. Leah, on her level, is allowed to ask for Maisa Nisim. That's the Avos, a great tzaddikim we know asked for Nisim. And it shouldn't be taken lightly, because if it's for yourself, you could be losing your own schar in Olam Haba by wasting it or using it for Maisa Nisim. But that was obviously Latoelet. And she was Leah. So Leah was able to ask for a miracle. But for us, we don't ask for miracles, and that's why the halacha and the Mishnah says, we don't ask, it's for us, it would be a tefillat shav. It wouldn't help, and it's a tefillat shav.
I think someone says that the Brachos switched the Uber, and that was the nes. The Uber didn't change, they just switched.
Okay, so if they switched, the Uber changed, but that's also a nes.
Right.
Okay.
The Rambam says that to a shav, but if you did, you could actually change the past to do tefillah, but you're not supposed to.
I didn't hear that. I don't know.
Well, having said all that, it says also in the Masechet Brachos never to underestimate the power of kochas tefillah.
Right. So I'm gonna get into that a little bit in a moment. Just let's finish this. I'll share one thing that you said, and you're going to see how it becomes confusing. The Gemara says in Brachos Daf Yud, for example, by Chizkiyahu and Yeshayahu. Chizkiyahu was sick and he was about to die.
Right.
And it was because Yeshayahu explained because he wasn't having children. Chizkiyahu says, so give me your daughter. Right. But Yeshayahu basically said, we already have Xer, you're going to die. And Chizkiyahu responds, Mekublani mi beit Abba, that, right, from David HaMelech, that afilu cherev munach al tzavaro, even if you have a sharp sword on your neck, you should never stop davening to Hashem for rachamim. So you see that there's always a chance, at the last minute, for it to happen. So is that a case of a miracle? Even in the case of a miracle. Now that's also for the future. So let's read a little bit and we'll put some things together. Beis. Hanichnas lamod et gorno. A person goes to enter his gorn, where he has all of his produce. He's going to start counting and measuring, whether it's weighing or volume, whatever he has. Count how much money he has. So before you start, right, before you see what you have, or before you actually start counting really, Omer, Yihi Ratzon, Milafanecha, Hashem Elokai, Shetishlach Bracha Bakri Hazeh. You're allowed to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to send bracha in what you have. Not only that it should be successful, but the mashmot is you could even daven for Hashem to make it a little bit more. Obviously, you're not going to see it like double in front of your eyes, but you're allowed to daven that there should be more there than you originally thought. But once you start counting, Omer Baruch HaShaleach Bracha Bakri Hazeh. You can say a bracha of Hashaleach Bracha Bakri Hazeh. And some say it's even B'Shem V'Malchut, but only when you're counting in Eretz Yisrael Trumos U'Masros. Because then there's a special bracha that by Trumos U'Masros that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us a bracha that there should be unlimited bracha coming out of when we're careful with Trumos U'Masros. The point, okay, Madad. Now once you finish counting, and you already finished. V'yachar kach berech, and then you make a bracha like this, which a bracha either one, you're really asking for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to send a little more, hidden inside the bracha. That should, okay. Harei zeh tfilat shav. This is a tfilat shav, because once she'ein habracha mitzuya, you can only have bracha. Really, we're talking about this is a big statement in life, in general, for brachos. She'ena bracha metzuya, we only find bracha ela b'davar hasamui mina ayin. When something is hidden. You're asking for a bracha in life, we try not to show off or put ourselves when everyone's watching, when everyone can see us. But here in particular, it means that when something is not 100% counted and seen and visible and known exactly what there is, then there's more chance for a bracha to fall in place. Certainly if it's like a small riboy, where it's not so obvious that there's a miracle.
Right, but I actually have a question about that, because there are some people that hold that they don't want, look, I'm not saying people should show off in public. I'm not saying, buy a Lamborghini and show off that they have all these riches. I'm not saying that people should do that. But let's say...
do you mind if we have a discussion after? Because it's getting recorded and people can't hear. No problem. Okay. So this is a little bit of a difficult sugya. So let's stop right here now for a second. So there's a little bit of a stira between Aleph and Bet. How do we resolve it? Just to point out, just a couple of things. We mentioned that story. There's, here.
The stira being that the Goren is already there.
The Goren is already there. So the main chiluk is, I kind of said it out a little bit, is how nikar it is, how obvious it is. If it's something, it's not 100% clear, and you're going to have obviously a little bit different takes, how you want to understand it, a little bit of a different approach. The main difference is, if something is 100% clear already, and it's already in the past, we can't ask for miracles. Something that's completely impossible, that's a tefillat shav. However, if it's something that's in the future and it's hidden and it's not exactly clear, like even if it would be, you would call it a miracle, but you wouldn't see the miracle. It's al pi derech hateva, then apparently it's not a tefillat shav, and then that's when it's actually a good thing to ask for divine intervention. Again, an interesting story from Tainis Kaf Dalet. Somewhat famous story where a person, his workers were hungry and they didn't have anything to eat. So what happens? And they're complaining. So the son is there. It's the father's workers, employees, and the son is there. So he turns to the tree and he says, "Let the figs grow and ripen on the spot." And so it did, and they had plenty of food to eat. And when the father found out, this is not good behavior for a father or a son or a rabbi, but the Gemara says clearly. But the father basically said, that was totally inappropriate. And he said, just because you made a Kadosh Baruch Hu ripen his fruit before their time, so too your life will ripen and end before your time. He basically gave a klala for his son that he should die because he acted inappropriately. Sefer Hasidim says we don't ask for a stillborn to come back to life. We don't ask for miracles. Sefer Ikarim says also, if it's totally inappropriate for you, there's no chance you're going to become, the king of the country. So you don't daven for that. That's a complete tefillah for shav. You're asking for miracles. So, on the other side, the Ramah is quoted in a couple places, Kuf Pei Zayin, Taf Reish Pei Bet, where he says, let's say you forget Halanisim for Halanisim benching. So what do? You should say a Orach Chaim, you should say it in later on in the Orach Chaim, that just like you gave miracles to Klal Yisrael back then, you should give us miracles as well. So they all ask some ask on the Ramah, how can you be asking for miracles? We don't ask for miracles. So the Bechor Shor is quoted as giving one of the popular answers. If you ask al pi derech hateva that Hashem should give you miracles, it's allowed. So there it was a war. Obviously it was on some level it was a miracle, but on some level you had a war. We had many miracles in Eretz Yisrael recently with the wars in Sakamas and Medina. So although it's still al pi derech hateva, and then you're allowed to ask for it. He said also maybe if you're asking for the Rabbim, you're allowed to ask. That's another heter. So when it comes to refuah, so the general minhag is we do ask for miracles, even if a person is sick, because we do know that Hashem, it's a normal thing for Hashem, for people to get sick, and for Hashem to rofa cholim. It is normal. It could be through miraculous, it could also be through just treatment, regular treatment. So even if it looks hopeless, we still do ask for tefillah, for refuah shlema. And it's often not hopeless. You might think it is, but it's often not even. It's al pi derech hateva. Also, perhaps al pi pikuach nefesh. There's a heter. Anyway, so I think mostly sums up the perhaps inherent the distinction between aleph and bet, when one could ask and not ask. Let's see, anything else? Right.
Does anybody do this?
Does anybody do it? So I have not seen anyone say this bracha, but it's always a good thing that, it's a private thing, so it's not something you would see so much. But whenever you want to go count your money, it's a good thing, or to want to look in your bank account. It's okay. Oh, this tefillah saderech, I'm not familiar with people doing this version. We have our own tefillah saderech that everyone says in their siddur, but the moda'ani afterwards, it's not so common. No, I haven't heard it.
Also, the bracha is that the daughter of son of Ein, it's like maybe a little piece makes you feel whole. So it's not like there's more; it's just that it's more powerful.
That's also true. That's also true. But I think the point over here is it could even be more. It could even be more. It could change the reality, because you don't really know the reality. You don't know it being changed. So, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has the power. Obviously, a person should always appreciate what they have and daven and thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for what you have, and daven for the future that you and your family and Klal Yisrael doesn't get sick. It's a lot easier to stay healthy than to go through treatments and the suffering. Okay. Now there's something that, if a person, just to point out, what happens if a person knows that someone's sick? So we know, Chazal also say it's good to share it with others, so they should daven for you. The Piskei Tshuva says though, depending on the situation, if it's not known what kind of machala you have, it's not always good to share the severity of the machala, because we don't want to force the Kodesh Baruch Hu to do a bigger ness. So sometimes it's better to keep the details quiet and just ask for a general refuah, because once you tell everyone exactly what the diagnosis is and the situation is, then everyone knows you need more of a nes. And then it's less likely to be able to daven for such a thing. I will just raise one question mark. We'll leave it as a tzarachin. Basically, there are different opinions. What happens if a person is having a biopsy? And they know that the CT or MRI shows that there's something in the body. Do you daven for just a refuah shlema that somehow he should get better? Al pidera, it could disappear. It could be therapy, treatments, or anything. Or is it better to daven specifically? There's something there on the screen. You daven that it should turn out to be cyst or benign, and not malignant. So some say it's a tefillat shav, because it is what it is. You can't change the mitzias. You can daven for Hashem to make it, to become healthy. And Hashem can do it in numerous ways. But to daven specifically that it should change, that would be a tefillat shav. Another approach is, since you don't know what it is, you're not actually asking for a change. So it's a question, but and since refuah is normal and can be al pi derech teva, so then since it's hidden, there is room for Hashem to do a miracle. So two different approaches, if it's appropriate, how to daven for a biopsy. But in general, the best thing to do is to daven for a refuah shlema, and let HaKadosh Baruch Hu decide how to bring upon the refuah shlema. And then for sure you're not going to be wasting your tefillah. Because You want to make sure your tefillah is listened to, and you don't want to daven a wasteful tefillah shav. Okay, let's just conclude. Gimel. Hanichnas lamerchat somer yihiratzam lefnecha Hashem Elokai v'shutachiseni l'shalom v'tetzeni l'shalom v'tetzileni meha'ur hazeh u'cheyatzeh bo la'atid lavo. So this is a tefillah when a person goes into a hot, it's a merchatz, where it's extremely hot inside. You have fiery furnaces. So you say this tefillah that Hashem should save you and it shouldn't get harmed or burnt. Yatsa b'shalom, and when you leave, you say Modeh ani lefanecha Hashem Elokai shehitzaltani meha'ur hazeh. And nowadays, the Mishnah Berurah also says there is no, this tefillah is not said anymore. It's also, our bathhouses aren't so dangerous. Okay, Dalit. Hanichnas lahakis dam, if a person is going to go draw to let blood, and that was bloodletting, and that was done as refuah in those days. Again, obviously nowadays we don't do it, we get blood tests, but we don't do it l'shem refuah, in and of itself. So there, Omer Yehiratzan V'Fanecha Hashem Elokai Yehei Esek Zeli Lirfuah Ki Rofeh Chinam Ata. And so you're saying this should be done for a refuah. V'La'achar Shekizdam Yomar Baruch Rofeh Cholim. And then afterwards, also you say Baruch Rofeh Cholim. Pashtut, it seems that it should be a bracha b'shem v'malchut, but again, the Mishnah Berurah says, I haven't seen anyone do this. I don't think it's such a minhag to say it with Hashem's name. And they point out that really this should be done with any refuah. Anytime you take pills, anytime you go to the doctor, you could ask to stay healthy when you get a blood test. Whatever it is, it's always good to daven to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and it's really okay. Basically, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should always be on our mind, and we should always trust in the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hey, Olam Yehei Adam Regil Omar Koma Da'avid Rachmana Letav Avid. And a person should always should always say that whatever happens in life is always for the best. Really extremely important. That one of the main lessons in life of Emunah that we live by day to day has to be to always think about that whatever happens, it happens for the best. Hashem is in control, and whether it's to get kapara, and many of us heard or have some of our own stories where you thought that what was happening was really bad news, and it turned out that because of what happened, something much better came out of it. The Orach Shulchan, it's a very nice twist. He connects Hey to Aleph. If a person is always living in a world, whatever happens is for the best, and you teach that in your kids, then you're never going to have a situation where someone screams from the house with such a scream. Generally not, because those screams are tefillat shav screams, and it's less likely to happen when you have proper emunah. One last thing the Mishnah Berurah points out, that it's good to say bless you, or some have chaim tovim, or different words, when a person sneezes, because we know that originally that's how when a person would die, according to the Chazal, that come out of his nose, and when you sneeze, the life would come, the neshama would go at the same time. And it was with Yaakov when he first prayed that the people should get sick before they died, so that it doesn't come upon them by surprise. All right.